We've started, but we don't have a quorum.
Well, we never have quorum until well. We just can't do any business yet.
So are we live?
Yes, we are.
Oh, great. Welcome everybody. I hope you all had a wonderful break over the holidays. Welcome back to WSU and the Faculty Senate for 2004. That's the second time I've done this for 2024. Had an exciting couple of weeks. We're looking forward to getting to work. Our first order of business is today's presentation. We had a last minute change, and Dr. McDonald, who's our Faculty Senate representative to the Board of Regents, kindly agreed to move her presentation from February 1st, which was when she was scheduled to talk to today. As a result, I will be making some comments about that change and happy to answer questions about it when we arrive at that point in today's agenda. But to start, please help me welcoming Judy McDonald, who's going to give us an update on the Board of Regents and Faculty Senate representation to it. Judy.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. And I may not be as exciting as the original speaker, so I apologize for that. But I wanted to share with you a little bit about the Board of Regents, how they work, who they are, what they do. So hopefully you'll find some of this interesting. First and foremost, our Board of Regents are public. All our meetings are public. We are cautioned that if 6 of us went out for drinks, this would be a problem because we're not allowed to have a quorum without it being publicly advertised. You can go to the, whoops, off track already. So I wanted to introduce you to our regents. We have, in addition to myself, we have 10 very amazing people. Lisa Schauer is the current chair. She is a small business owner, runs her own business in Vancouver area, very amazing people skills, very warm, very enthusiastic, very engaged in everything to do with WSU and what's going on with WSU. Jeanette Ramos is one of our new regents. She ran the operations for Boeing. So just an amazing mind around how things work and what makes them work smoothly and that kind of stuff. Just really, really a neat person, really WSU undergrad. When we have stuff in Pullman, she's always excited to go around and see what's the same as when she was a student and when she wasn't. Marty Dickinson, also one of our graduates, is from Spokane. She was the previous chair of the Board of Regents, has done a lot in the Spokane area to promote the WSU Spokane campus. Brett Blankenship is a farmer and has been very active at the national level in things like the wheat board, and so brings sort of a lot of experience to the ag side. Eric Cerna is in communications, journalism, really amazing career, also a WSU degree, WSU undergrad, and more of these people may be WSU undergrads, but these are the ones that'll talk to me and reminisce about their student days. Doug Pika is our newest regent. He comes to us from Seattle Children's Hospital, and our meeting next week is going to be hosted by Seattle Children's Hospital, and we'll have some opportunities to discuss, excuse me, potential joint ventures with Seattle Children's Hospital. Laura is, I think, our longest serving regent. She's a scientist from the Tri-Cities. Heather Redmond works in tech and entrepreneurship. Really neat, really brings interesting ideas to the regents. John Shetler works in Amazon, and again, really fascinating to have somebody come into the board and talk about a huge company like Amazon that operates in 50 different countries and how they operate, ideas, bringing ideas from the way Amazon does things to the Board of Regents for us to try. And the 10th member is Isaac he's one of our student regents. He's getting a master's in education. And again, articulates well, brings the student perspective to the board. And so just a really neat group of people So I feel very fortunate that the governor has chosen for us a good set of just really good people, really involved in what they are doing or have done in their careers, and very, very devoted to WSU. Anytime when you want to see what we're up to, you can go to the Regent's website, and it looks a little like this. I'll just pull this over for a second. One of the sort of where the information on meetings comes and what we're talking about is you can go to the meeting dates on the Board of Regents agenda, and then you can scroll down, and it's not up yet, but I'm expecting very shortly something to appear under the notice agenda section of the meeting dates. And then you can go back and you can, for example, you can go to the Vancouver meeting on November 16th, and all of the information that we had in our information packets is there for you to see. So we typically get a couple hundred pages to review for each meeting. Big packet of information, lots of interesting things about the university and what the university is doing. So I'm going to make my font a little bigger here. The agenda is posted about a week before on the meeting agenda, so you can go look at it. There is a Zoom link, so if there's something coming up at one of the Board of Regents meetings you think would be interesting, you are welcome to Zoom in and listen to the discussion, listen to the presentation. Like I said, we get pretty interesting information a lot of the time. So on Thursdays, we have sort of the committee meetings. There are 4 committees: executive and governance, strategic and operational excellence, academic and student affairs, and finance and administration. So some things we've talked about recently. We've talked about setting meeting dates, trying to make sure we're getting to each campus on a regular basis, but at the same time, we've also talked a little bit about simplifying travel so that it's not as big a travel commitment on the part of the regents. We do occasionally have regents Zoom in post-COVID, like everybody else. We adapted, but it's a lot better if we have everyone in person and can get together and talk more openly, ask simple questions of each other, and be able to listen without it being all on the public stage. We've talked about some of our bylaws and policy. Right now, we have fairly generous delegated authority to the president. So not very many things from the Senate go to the regents. There was a time when I first started, when I was first FAC chair, when virtually everything the Senate did went to the regents. So right now we have pretty streamlined delegated authority. Back when I was FAC chair, it was during the time when Elson was sick, Dan Bernardo was interim chair, and we were onboarding Kirk. So it made a lot of sense that the regents were paying extra attention at that time. So executive and governance just talks about how do we as a board govern ourselves. The Strategic and Operational Excellence Committee looks at the system objectives, the strategic plan. We reviewed the first ever Pullman strategic plan. Now that we have a chancellor, we had an opportunity to see them as discussion items, make recommendations, some of which were followed. And so the plans come from the university to the regents, but then the regents can say, well, what about this? They can ask questions. We can make suggestions about things that we like, support, encourage, or things that we think might be concerning. And then it goes back to the university to decide if they want to take the advice or not. Academic and student affairs. Most recently, we reviewed the NWCCU 6-year report for accreditation and working up to our 7th year review. We've had presentations on enrollments, where we think we're going, what sorts of things the university wants to do to try and increase in enrollments. We had a presentation on behalf of undocumented students. How does the university work with undocumented students? That kind of thing. Finance and administration is maybe the most, the complicated one, at least for me. A lot of the budget items currently run through the Board of Regents, especially things over $5 million. I think that's our cutoff right now. If it's under $5 million, the president can generally move forward with it. If it's over 5 million, it really needs to come to the Board of Regents. A lot of exciting stuff around new buildings, renovating buildings. I always start cheering when they say they're going to renovate a building on the Pullman campus and update it. Things get heard. I think I complained maybe one time too many about the technology in Spark. And to my surprise, we found a donor, named the PACCAR room after them. And hopefully the technology in Spark is working much better now than it was a year ago. So sometimes some of the things we come up, some of the comments really do get taken seriously and listened to by the various groups in the university that present to the Senate. One of the things we've talked a lot about over the fall is tuition rates. It's a hard thing. We currently are comparable to the UW as far as tuition and fees. So on one hand, we don't want to be more expensive than UW, but on the other hand, without raising tuition, we don't have funding to do things. So it's been something we've talked about a lot as far as how much there's a cap given by the state of how much we can raise tuition. And then under that cap, we make a decision if we go the maximum or something less. So we've talked a lot about that, and it's complicated. We're talking about the different rates for student housing and what that looks like. So good things. We're looking at some changes to the WAC code, particularly around public record requests. Right now, people can request things and the university has to provide them. And we're looking at some ways to streamline that and maybe have the person making the request at least cover the cost, because it's actually quite expensive, the amount of time we spend on public records. This committee also talks about the different issues around compliance. Compliance for the university has gotten more and more complicated as the years go on. Moving into Friday morning, we typically have reports. The president gives a report, Board of Regents chair. We usually have a chancellor that hosts each meeting, and so they get to present some of the highlights of what's going on in their campus. Shared governance reports. So Eric comes and talks to us right now about things that are going on with Faculty Senate. We hear from GPSA, ASWSU, Alumni Association, APAC, different ones. Then we go into our action items. And generally by the time something's become an action item, we have discussed it at length in committee. So I think somebody said to me once, well, you guys don't even discuss the action items. And it's like, yeah, it's because we've been discussing them at length prior to getting to that point. And the final thing on Friday mornings is there's a public comment period. Anyone, including faculty, can come and give a 2-minute presentation on a concern they have. There's also an opportunity for written comment, and we're still sort of sorting out what written comment looks like. So if you want to submit written comment, you can write to regents@wsu.edu. My primary advice is keep it short and to the point and very professional, but then the regents it will be circulated to all the regents and they will be able to see your comment. We occasionally go into something called executive session. In general, those are stressful. It usually means our legal counsel has things they want to discuss with us that are not appropriately discussed in public, or there's some kind of personnel issue that we're looking at. One of the things that I think I never appreciated is how much the regents do informally. I got invited to sit in the president's box at a football game, and I was all psyched to go watch the football game. And then I realized that at this football game, my job was not to watch the football game. It was to mingle with the other people there that were potential donors or influential people from the community. And our regents take that job very, very seriously. The idea that they are ambassadors for the university. Several of us went to the donor recognition gala. Other regents attend alumni events at various places. if foundations wants extra help on a fundraiser somewhere, our regents are pretty enthusiastic to go and support the university there. So they do a lot behind the scenes to promote WSU, which I don't think I realized, and I really appreciate this particular group, their devotion and the amount they want to make sure that the university is getting good funding, is, you know, that communities are supporting our university, and so on. The scholarship around governing boards is really interesting. So like everything else, we have an association. So we have an association of governing boards. They provide us with all kinds of resources. I think I had a 4-hour onboarding training on what it means to be part of a governing board. I get an email a week about, do you want to attend this panel on this particular topic? There's a magazine that comes out, I think quarterly, if I remember right. We can reach out to them with questions and advice. Lisa Shower, I know, our current chair, has contacted them several times and said, okay, I need advice on this. What do I do here? There's a conference in Boston in March, and about 4 of us, including myself, are going to go to the conference. So it's pretty cool. One piece of information I wanted to share with you was sort of what's the role of the Board of Regents. And one of the things that I think resonated for me as someone that's had a lot to do with Faculty Senate is the Regents are also a governance body. They vote on things that are presented to them. We get to give advice in various places and try to take advantage of it and do it well, so that whoever we're talking to will want to listen to us now and in the future. So it's very much a shared governance role and not a management role. So sometimes I'll have faculty come to me and say, yeah, as regents, you got to do this. And it's like, no, as regents, we can't do that. That's a management issue. We can't manage the university. We participate in shared governance, much like the Senate. As many of you know, this is the first, just over a year that we've actually had an official regent on a faculty member as a regent. I met with the UW regent yesterday, actually, the UW faculty regent for the first time, and we had a really good conversation. She said that she's getting me the list. There's a few other universities that have faculty regents, but it's pretty rare. So we had a really good discussion about our roles and why we think it's important, to promote the idea of a faculty regent at a more national level. I've been contacted by senates from some of the other state universities that are interested in trying to also get a faculty representative on their board of regents. So I kind of gave them advice on how we started off with a seat at the table and then moved up to full representation on the regents. So what's my role? When I have my Board of Governors hat on, Board of Regents hat, I'm a representative of the governor and the state. And once a year, I have to go in and spend about 2.5 hours doing attestations and taking oaths that I will and won't do certain things. Lots of information about what else I do besides being the representative. I consider my constituents to be the faculty, staff, and students of the university as sort of the primary group I represent, but overall I represent the state. It's a 3-year appointment. I started October 2022 and I will finish September 2025. I find that I spend a lot of time talking about how universities work, what different roles are, working with other regents. They have lots of questions. Great group with a lot of genuine curiosity, intellectual curiosity about how universities work and that sort of thing. So I feel like a faculty regent is really valuable because we bring that institutional knowledge to the table that most other regents will not have, since they predominantly have had the student view and not had other views of the university. We set it up so that the faculty regent is ex officio non-voting on steering. I think that's important to keep the link between the Board of Regents representative, the faculty representative, and Senate steering, so that we're communicating back and forth about different ideas that we think are important for the university at any given time. For me, I think I'm one of the few people that gets to see the university from the top and the bottom. So I get that high level board of regents governance view. I also, I'm down there slogging in the trenches, swearing at the technology in the classrooms when it doesn't work. No, I don't actually swear at it. I just want to. But it is a kind of a neat position. I look at somebody like Kirk or Elizabeth, and by the time they're in a provost or a presidential position, they're no longer experiencing what it's like to be a faculty member on the front lines. I like that my roles in shared governance as a faculty member and as a regent inform each other. There's things that I learn as a regent that I bring back to my faculty role or to my shared governance roles. There's things that as a faculty member I can bring to the other two and vice versa. And I think that's about 20 minutes. And so I wanted to see if people had questions.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. Questions for Judy? Lanika?
Lanika, thank you.
Oh,
This is really helpful, Judy, and thank you for your service. It's a lot of work. I'm just curious, when you have partnerships with other institutions such as the University of Washington, with Seattle Children's, how does that sort of communication then? Is there communication with other colleges of medicine or with other colleges such as medicine, nursing, vet med, etc., that you help facilitate, or how does that look like when we have other partners within the community?
So those partnerships so far are pretty informal. So Alexis and I started emailing each other and they're like, yeah, let's have a Zoom. Let's have a conversation about some of the structure on how we're set up. One of the things that came up for her was there's an RCW that prohibits the faculty regent from participating in tenure and promotion decisions. And her chair had said, oh, well, then you can't participate at the department level. And I'm kind of like, well, we interpreted it as at the regent level, I wouldn't be able to vote on something like that, but not at the regular level. So we were talking informally. The hosting by Seattle Children's Hospital next week is the first one of its kind. We haven't, that I will experience. I haven't had that happen before. And so we're actually going over early. We're going to go over on Wednesday afternoon and we're going to get a tour of Seattle Children's Hospital. And there's supposed to be, I believe, some speakers that will present ideas that they're hoping the university might be interested in. And so then I would see bringing some of those ideas back and reaching out to people and saying, hey, I heard Seattle Children's Hospital is looking for a partnership on this kind of thing. So most of those relationships are informal. The the AGB is, we pay them. And I don't know what we pay them, but we pay an institutional membership. And for the conference, we're paying conference fees and stuff like that. So, and again, things I learn at the conference, I'll bring back and try to get in touch with appropriate people to see if we can get any kind of movement on an issue.
Okay, any other questions? Great. Well, if not, thank you again, Judy, and for an interesting peek into the upper echelons of leadership at Washington State University. So if there are no other questions, then it's my pleasure to call the first meeting of 2024 to order. We have quorum. First order of business is approval of the minutes from December 7th.
What in the hell are?
Sorry, shared meeting. Jennifer Miller, I move to approve our last meeting's minutes.
Thank you, Jennifer. Can I get a second?
I'll second. Lanika.
All right, great. Thank you. The minutes are approved. So announcements, I will make some remarks in a moment, but so briefly, information items. Faculty Senate executive officers met with the Provost leadership team December 13th. We will be meeting with President Schultz and Provost Chilton Next week, January 23rd, I will give you some insight into topics that we'll cover in a moment. And then I'll be presenting to the Board of Regents again on January 26th. Reports, Matt, I think you're first.
Okay, so the election season has opened. We have our 2024-25 chair-elect election website is now open along with the forms. So those who are interested in running for chair, is that being shared?
It's not being shared, but I can share it.
I'll get the website shared here. So anyway, the executive election dates are on the website. The probably the pressing date is if you are interested in running for chair-elect, the applications are due on February 13th this year. So yeah. Yeah, so right before the third Senate meeting, or actually right after the third Senate meeting is when the formal applications are due. There's information underneath that calendar concerning various duties and responsibilities. I would encourage potential candidates to review the financial support aspects, and that would also include communications with your department leadership too. But I will defer to those who've actually run through this process to discuss that aspect of things. The form itself is relatively straightforward. There's only one office being run for, the chair-elect office. So your name, rank, and department. A statement of candidacy is requested along with your CV if you are interested in running for this position. So that is what I can tell you at this very early stage concerning the chair-elect election for this round. I will happily entertain questions about the procedure.
Any questions for Matt? I think I'll just mention in keeping with that, being chair of Faculty Senate has been an incredible honor and very personally rewarding, not without its challenges. I'm sure all of the past chair-elect would be happy to discuss all of this with you if you have any interest at all in throwing your hat in the ring. So I hope you will. Okay, remarks by the chair. I think the first thing to address is the change in speaker schedule. Tammy Berry and Kendra Heise had to bow out unexpectedly, but for a really good reason, which was that the WSU administration and graduate student union bargaining team have reached an agreement. Only a very brief job stoppage occurred, which we're all grateful for. I hope you'll join me in thanking the efforts of the leadership teams on both sides of the table for their efforts in arriving at that tentative agreement. It has not been ratified, and so that was the reason for pulling out. I think no one wants to end up negatively influencing the chances of that agreement being ratified. So we will try to have Tammy and Kendra appear later on in the semester. I have been given a very short list of talking points, which is the only information I have about the process. The agreement is up for vote by the academic student employees, and that vote is expected sometime between January 9th and 25th. It's my understanding that if the agreement is ratified by the academic student employee union, that WSU will ratify it after that. WSU is the Faculty Senate has not been highly involved in the negotiating process, but it will be involved in the implementation process as WSU responds to the changes that need to be implemented in order to fulfill the conditions of the agreement. And so we'll be discussing meetings with the president and provost's leadership teams. We'll be taking your questions and trying to facilitate all that to the best of our abilities once the decision has been, the agreement has been ratified. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any, although I have very limited additional information to share with you. Other things, most of the constituent concerns that have been posted on the Faculty Senate forum, I think have been answered, except for possibly a very few that have not received an answer. We did over the break get a response from the new VP for Research, Michael Walcott, and he and Chris Keene, the previous VP for Research, crafted a vision statement for research at the university. We have, so I have written a blog that covers some of this that should be up later today or tomorrow with links. Other things that have happened, we are still going to talk to the president about the review of administrators at Washington State University. There's quite a number of constituent concerns that have been raised over the last year about that. We have reached out to the president's and provost's offices, as well as all of the offices of the various chancellors, gotten responses back. I think it's been very helpful. There's still quite a bit of work that needs to be done to tabulate all of the procedures and policies. In all, I think there are about 20 offices around WSU that are involved in reviewing administrative personnel in various capacities. We also have received a number of requests or concerns recently about WSU spending on administrative personnel in general. We contacted the Office of Institutional Research about that. They actually audit WSU in regard to that, those expenses biannually, and they conduct peer review research in peer review. Sorry, butchering this. They look into how much our institutional peers spend on administrative costs as well, and they provided a bunch of information about that, and that is going to be linked to my blog post that should be up shortly. So I think that's all I have prepared to talk about. If there are other questions, we have a relatively short agenda today, so I'm happy to entertain questions about any of that. Of course, we have constituent concerns at the end of our meeting today. So any questions about all of that? Okay, hearing none. Any additions or changes to the agenda for today? Great. Also hearing none, so we will move on to action items. This is a reminder that only faculty senators are eligible to vote. So if you are attending in some other capacity, please do not vote, as we have no way of figuring that out on the fly.
We could figure it out, but it would be
Not on the fly. We
Not on the
can't
fly.
do it in real time, so that will be complicated. So action item. So item one is undergraduate and professional major change bullet number 5. It's exhibit 372A. Deanie and Becky might be here.
I believe Becky's here.
Great. Okay, thanks. Any questions or comments about this? Okay, hearing none, we launch a poll.
Turning the right number. Okay, poll is launched. We have 58 approve and 0 reject.
Great. So sorry, I'm multitasking in my head. That passes. Thank you very much. Item 2, College of Medicine future academic calendar dates, exhibits 373A through C, and K. Myers, the person to ask if we have any questions about it. Questions? Seeing none, can we launch a poll?
Okay, the poll is launched. We have 58 approve and 0 reject.
Okay, so that passes. Item 3, a proposal to establish Rule 48 enrollment policy to maintain eligibility to enroll. It's exhibit 374A. And again, Becky would be the first to ask if you have any questions. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, we launch a poll.
Poll is launched. We have 58 approve and 0 reject.
Great. That passes as well. And so item 4, graduate major change bullet number 3, exhibit 377A. This is newer change course proposal from the course review process. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, can you launch a poll, please?
Poll is launched. We have 59 approve and 0 reject.
All right, and our last action item is number 5, undergraduate major change bullets, and number 3. Again, this is from the course review process, and I should mention there were no concerns sent to the course review process. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, can we launch a poll?
Poll is launched. We have 59 approve and 0 reject.
All right, that passes as well. Thank you all. So that moves on to discussion items. The first is the proposed faculty manual updates regarding faculty categories, section 1.B.1, and the clarification on the role of short-term faculty in graduate education. And Judy is here to answer any questions. Comments? Tracy.
Thank you. Judy, I just had a question. You may not answer it at this point, but is terminal degree defined anywhere in the faculty manual?
It's not defined in the faculty
Or is
manual,
it
but
departmental strictly? Because there have been issues where I work.
I will get back to you on where I think terminal degree is defined, but we would take it more as a what is understood nationally as a terminal degree. So like an MFA is a terminal degree, a PhD is a terminal degree. You're probably right that there's some gray area, and I'm tempted to say Carnegie Mellon definitions, but I don't even know if that's the case. So let me see if I can find a little more information about that.
Thank you.
Other questions for Judy? Okay, hearing none.
Paul Buckley, yeah.
Oh, Paul, yeah, thanks.
Oh, hi. So I don't know if this is just me being overly sensitive as a career track faculty, but I'm looking at the section, where it's talking about, ways to identify the rank, the track, and all this. I can't see what page is, maybe set page 7. Where it starts and into page 8. And at the top of page 8, these are the ways that the colleges may choose to identify the working titles. So career number 2 in parentheses, and it says that it should be a parenthesis. So for example, associate professor, parentheses, career track. And again, maybe I'm just being overly sensitive, but that kind of, when I read that, it kind of looks like an asterisk to me.
It's not a section that we're changing, and it's not something that I'm involved with, so it's hard for me to speak to it.
Okay, well, that's true. It's not being changed, so that's a very good point. Okay, that was just my 2 cents.
If you wanted to send a request to the committee for something different, we would certainly entertain it.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Great. Other questions or comments? Okay. If not, we'll move on to discussion item 2, undergraduate major change bulletin number 4. These are courses submitted through the course review process, the exhibits 376A. Any comments or questions?
Just a real quick question. I'm just noticing the time frame. We've got lots of November 10th, December 1st that already went through.
That's only seen on our side.
I see.
Yeah, so those
I
are,
was just curious on the calendar. So a lot of these dates were the same.
right.
Other questions? Okay, hearing none. Discussion item number 3, UCOR changes approved by the UCOR committee. It's bulletin number 2, exhibit 379A. Again, this is material that's come to us through the course review process. We received no feedback on the proposal so far. Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 4, graduate major change bulletin number 4 courses. Again, this has been through the course review process and received no feedback. Any comments or concerns? All right, hearing none, that concludes our discussion items and brings us to constituent concerns. Michael.
Hi, everybody. Mike McDonald. I'm in medicine. I just had a follow-up question or for you all. Do we have any sense from the president or the provost or others around sort of what the plan is going forward around collective bargaining? And the reason I'm asking this question is because obviously the graduate students were successful with this collective bargaining initiative. It's my understanding that the postdocs are also organizing, and I think we've maybe talked about that and are considering unionizing. And then there's another group of folks, our classified staff, who are represented at the University of Washington by a union and are, as we all know, very underpaid and undercompensated for their work. So I guess, it's wonderful. It's every time we have this is a wonderful outcome for the grad students, a wonderful outcome for all of us. However, it puts a lot of budget pressure on the university. And this is just one group, and they've been successful in collective bargaining. And so and of course, there's also faculty who are undercompensated or have challenges with their compensation. So I guess, have you all talked at all, or the president or the provost talked at all about just larger sort of strategy around this from the budgetary perspective in particular? Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, thanks for raising that. So part of what you are bringing up is the implementation. In other words, how we would all like to be paid more. You know, by all estimates, I think Washington State University is unable to, or so far has been unable to, meet expectations that other peer institutes have in terms of compensation. So how to implement all of this, I think, is something that we are going to be involved in addressing in the very near future. The other point that might be worth making is that the Faculty Senate approved an ad hoc committee to investigate institutional salary step structure. We actually will be meeting with the chair, Lori Drupella, of that committee, just to get sort of a status update this week or next.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think tomorrow, in fact. And so that's an ongoing process. I think the Faculty Senate should probably let that committee do its job and listen to their recommendations before moving forward. But I think the points that you raise are well taken, and we will likely get there. Is my guess. So that's all the information I have. I'm happy to have anybody else that wants to respond to that.
And that committee, right, is specifically focused on faculty salaries, not classified staff or postdocs.
That is my understanding as well. Yeah.
Because I think that's just my overall sort of anxiety is around, you know, this is a group that's been very successful at getting this large increase in their benefits and salary. And now other groups are going to be like, well, gosh darn it, we already are talking about a unionizing and sort of the cumulative effect on our budget that's going to result in, which is, again, this is, you know, all ships are rising potentially, but in the end, that's got to, you know, obviously is being impacted. If we don't have the funds to support it, we don't have the funds to support it. So.
Yeah, agreed. I'll be highly curious myself to see how this all plays out. Eric.
Hi, thanks. Just to follow up on that, I think that it's really important that Faculty Senate stay engaged in these conversations, because while I think that it's very important that the way that we compensate graduate students would be handled differently, and that they be better compensated, the current discussions seem to be suggesting that a significant amount of that cost is likely going to get pushed down onto the units where those graduate students are on TAs or RAs. And if that happens, at least current estimates that I've seen would suggest that at least departments that have lots of TAs might have their TA numbers cut by 1/3 to 1/2, which means that we are not going to be able to offer as many sections of courses, which of course then reduces the amount of revenue that we're getting from student credit hours. And I know this varies a lot across different units, but at least for some units, I think that is a stark reality if those costs get pushed down predominantly to the union, for the unit to try to cover. And I think that a lot of attention needs to be paid to this. I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Eric. I absolutely agree that we will need to be involved in the implementation stage of this, and those are the issues that we're going to face. Doug, you have a hand up.
Yeah, just real quick. Thank you very much. And I'm not speaking with any authority whatsoever, but to my knowledge, those budget questions haven't been addressed at all. And there have been a lot of assumptions that going around, but those conversations haven't gone anywhere because we haven't know how much the costs are going to be as of yet. Yeah, there's probably going to be impact, and yes, everybody should be engaged in understanding how this is going to work, but I'd hold off on making assumptions until that conversation gets moving forward. and we can see what the actual impacts are going to be. And by the way, there is going to be a request into the state to help with this. You know, who knows how much they will, if at all, but that will also mitigate the effect of the overall ask from the Graduate Students Union. Thanks.
Thanks, Doug. Pamela, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to, oops. Yeah, I just wanted to echo the point about staying engaged and not just to be clear at the implementation level, but at the planning level of how to handle kind of the management level of planning for how to do this, because I think there have been some conversations already with the provost about this among some chairs and directors in some colleges, and there does seem to be already discussion of historically doing what has been happened in the past, which is to pass along to the individual units. And I would argue, and this is why I think being involved in the planning and discussions about how to handle this, perhaps through, across the board, non-academic and academic cost sharing, but that we should be involved in that early on. And really, I would say, strongly encourage innovative and creative ways to handle this unprecedented. And historically, we haven't had this. This is new. And if we're going to be, to the previous point, dealing with it with other groups of employees, if it's the pattern, then I don't think it's going to work to just keep passing it on and passing it on and passing on to individual units. I don't think that's going to be, very helpful. So at any rate, I'm just basically supporting the point that the Faculty Senate should be involved in discussions, and not only after the decisions are made about how it's going to happen and then implementation, but in planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Eric, you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one additional point, and that is that graduate programs are making decisions about if they can offer positions right now, like over the next 3 to 4 weeks. And if we don't know about funding, or if it's not clear that there is going to be funding from outside of the unit, then offers will not be made. And that is not something that we can then turn around in June and decide to make a bunch of offers, right? If we don't find out until May whether we're going to have the funding to continue to have the graduate positions, then we likely will not be able to fill those positions, even if we have them come August, because the decisions have to be made when everybody is making these decisions nationally.
Yeah. Eric, that's a good point. I know my own unit is actively engaged in recruiting graduate students right now, and that will undoubtedly factor into the equation of how many can be offered. So that's a great point. Other constituent concerns? Well, if hearing no others, thank you all for your service to Washington State University and Faculty Senate. Again, I hope you had a great break, and best wishes for the coming year. And I will call the meeting adjourned. Bye, guys.